Welcome back to our channel. In this video, we will be discussing the recently drafted battery swapping policy issued by NITI Aayog last week. Before going into the details of the policy, we will understand what is meant by battery swapping. For this, we have referred to policy itself. Battery swapping is basically a method to cater to the charging requirements of battery-powered EVs that entails replacing discharged batteries or partially charged batteries of electric vehicles by charged batteries, which can be conveniently carried out manually and/or with mechanical intervention. On the other hand, battery swapping station shall mean a station where any electric vehicle can get its discharged battery or partially charged battery replaced by a charged battery. Now we will try to understand why battery swapping is stressed upon in the present condition. There is an increasing EV penetration in India, which is leading to an increase in the need for charging infrastructure. In addition, EV charging takes a lot of time, significantly longer than refueling internal combustion engine-based vehicles. In all this, battery swapping has evolved as an alternative. It delinks charging and battery usage and keeps the vehicle in operational mode with negligible downtime. Battery swapping stations can stack multiple batteries on top of each other and require limited parking, thus addressing space constraints. However, swapping requires a greater number of batteries than conventional batteries, but smaller in capacity, often expressed in kilowatt-hours, since range anxiety is a smaller concern. So, it is clear that time, space, and cost are parameters on which battery swapping is seen as beneficial. Moving forward, we will glimpse through some key points of the draft policy. Validity of the policy is from the date of notification till 31st March 2025. Under the policy, eligible vehicles are light electric power-train vehicles of category L and e-rickshaw e-cart. The policy supports only batteries using advanced chemistry cell with performance that is equivalent or superior to EV batteries supported under the FAME-II scheme. Also, only BMS-enabled batteries are covered under this policy. Policy takes the instance of business model agnostic. Some other key points are: any vehicle with a swappable battery should be registered without reference to the battery details. Any individual or entity is free to set up a battery swapping station at any location. All swapping stations should serve at least one vehicle segment, which can be two-wheeler, three-wheeler, light commercial vehicle, etc., and each swapping station should serve at least two EV original equipment manufacturers. States or local authorities may provide concessional land parcels for battery swapping services, in line with concessions provided for public charging services. Battery providers should be able to self-certify their installations for safety as per guidelines provided by the distribution utility. The policy has referred to providing a unique identity to each battery and battery swapping station. In short, it is UIN. To implement unique traceability across the battery life cycle, UIN will be assigned at the manufacturing stage for tracking and monitoring EV batteries. Standard or generic methodology and a detailed definition of the UIN system for EV batteries will be developed by the relevant authorities. Battery swapping operators must store the usage history and required performance data of the battery with UIN during EV application, and data must be maintained to facilitate the traceability of EV batteries during the entire life cycle. Subsidies may be linked to the UIN of EVs and batteries to ensure that there is no double dipping. Next, let us see what fiscal supports are talked about in this policy. Any demand-side incentives offered under existing or new schemes for EV purchase can be made available to EVs with swappable batteries eligible under this policy. The incentives will be based on kilowatt-hour rating of battery and compatible EV. An appropriate multiplier may be applied to the subsidy allocated to battery providers to account for the float battery requirements for battery swapping stations in different battery swapping ecosystems. Subnational government agencies may provide additional capital subsidies to promote battery swapping. The policy has also clarified tariff aspects for swapping. Charging of swappable batteries at other places like Kinara stores, commercial or private properties, and other such facilities using existing electricity connections will attract tariffs set by the appropriate commissions for those consumer types. Policy advocates bringing battery charging stations under existing or future time-of-day tariff regimes as stipulated by the appropriate commission so that the swappable batteries can be charged during the off-peak periods when the electricity tariffs are low. To participate in a time-of-day tariff regime, a charging station should have a dedicated electricity connection. Among various other important provisions, one of the provisions is reuse and recycling of batteries. In this regard, Bureau of Indian Standards or other relevant organizations shall develop regulations for the minimum battery performance and durability requirements. For safety, reusability, and sustainability of the business models in second life application of the used EV batteries, BIS shall develop standards for the reuse and repurposing of the end of first life batteries from EV applications. To promote the reuse of swap batteries after their end of life in automotive or EV application, energy operators or battery swapping operators will be encouraged to develop a power bank using end of life swap batteries to store and use renewable energy for EV charging or other applications. Also, BIS or MOEFC will develop a definition of battery ownership and liability. Improper disposal of EV batteries in landfills or scrap will not be allowed. Additionally, battery management rules shall be released separately to cover the end-of-life handling of the batteries in detail and fix the extended producer responsibility. Details of tracking of collection and reprocessing of used EV batteries are already available in Draft Battery Waste Management Rules, 2020. The policy has also talked about phased rollout strategy for swapping in the country. Under first phase, all metropolitan cities with a population greater than 4 million, as per Census 2011, will be covered. Under second phase, all major cities such as state capitals, union territory headquarters, and cities with populations greater than 5 lakhs, as per Census 2011, will be covered. Another significant provision is a single window portal, to be developed by state nodal agencies, municipal authorities or by an alternative public agency nominated by the state government. It will facilitate submission of all required documents by battery swapping providers, issue trade licenses for battery swapping businesses, approve allocation of public land for installation of battery swapping stations, and to grant electricity supply connections for battery charging centers or stations. Appropriate agencies may mandate that the required licenses and approvals should be expedited and provided within 5 days of application. Policy also discusses the data sharing aspect. Information to be tracked by battery providers on an ongoing basis will be defined and assigned. Nodal government authorities may access it at any time. In addition, for classification of collected data under the broad categories of proprietary, restricted access, private and open data, a non-restrictive detailed guideline will be developed for adherence by all industry players. Data will support ease of consumer access and use of battery swapping services. Data on availability, battery type, compatibility, and performance for batteries at all BSs will be useful. Policy also talks about providing access to real-time data on battery statistics like charge levels and range, discovery of nearest swapping stations, as well as seamless options to book and pay for the services through multiple modes. Battery swapping requires interoperability among various systems, prominent being in the charging and discharging process. For EV battery discharging, interoperability is defined as the compatibility of fixed or swappable EV batteries with different EV models. For EV battery charging, interoperability is the compatibility of fixed or swappable EV batteries with the electric vehicle supply equipment provided in different charging stations. Battery swapping in EV is evolving, and hence standards and regulations will be very much needed for the sector. This has been talked about in the draft policy. Technical and performance standards defined for bus and battery swapping services are to be adopted or approved by the appropriate agencies to enable the safe operation of certified battery packs in different vehicles and for compatibility of charging station and swapping station with different battery types. Additional standards and specifications for batteries regarding battery pack dimensions, charging connectors, etc. will be equally important. Compatible electric vehicles shall be tested as per relevant regulatory standards. For EVs with swappable battery functionality, vehicle OEMs shall be required to get array approval for their vehicles to accept interoperable swappable batteries. Standards for charging and swapping stations will be developed or approved by BIS or Ministry of Power or other competent authorities. Electric vehicle supply equipment used at the swapping station must be tested and approved by the National Accreditation Board for Testing and Calibration Laboratories or agency appointed by the Central Nodal Agency for Battery Swapping. For safety during operation of the charging infrastructure, the operator must follow the guidelines and protocols of the distribution company or Central Electricity Authority. Additionally, standards for communication between battery and vehicle controller, battery and charger, battery and energy operator server will be defined or approved by BIS. Hope you got a good idea about the draft policy. Do comment on the policy as the comments are invited till 5th June 2022. Also, comment below to share your views on the policy, and you can suggest topics which we can cover in upcoming videos. Like and share the video. Also, subscribe to the channel to see more such videos in future.